A lot of people tend to use the phrase, which I don't love, is, I think I'm going to ask a stupid question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. And I just don't love that. It's like, it's okay to ask questions. Be curious about what you're talking about, whatever the topic is. It doesn't mean you are less intelligent than the next. You're being curious about a different area. And I think that is such a missed trait in our industry, and I love it.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Media Snack Meets. I'm Tom Denford, CEO of ID Comms. Today, my very special guest is Vinny Rinaldi, the VP of Media and Marketing Technology at the Hershey Company. Hi, Vinny. Welcome to Media Snack.
Hey, Tom. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Very good. I'm so glad that you could join us. For those that don't know you, tell us what you do in your role now, and what does it take to be successful in that role?
Yeah, so great question. When we think about my role across the entire organization here at the Hershey Company, it is really overseeing the media center of excellence. And that encompasses many, many different things. And not only just the media side, but also the marketing technology side of it. And you can separate the two in a way of using, the infrastructure and technology layer of what enables marketing to be really great is part of my remit, and the strategy that goes behind that entails anything from, the content capabilities that we put on digital shelf for all retail media to work really well. And then, the entire website team sits, within my remit, and how we create really at the end of the day, what is an end-to-end consumer ecosystem look like? And that goes from insights all the way through to activation. So that really then fuels and enables the paid media side of the team, where I sit over and run the, basically the planning, buying, and measuring of all of our spend across the entire portfolio, both CMG, which is candy, mint, and gum, and then Salty as a separate business unit, which encompasses, our salty products and brands. Some of the favorites out there of Skinny Pop, Pirates Booty, and Dots Pretzels. And then, of course, on the other side, the heavy favorites of Reese's and Hershey's and Kit Kat, and, obviously a large plethora of others. So my role oversees all of that. I've got a team of around 40 people executing in very different areas. But it is a fun job that sits across obviously some pretty big iconic candy brands. And, we're constantly learning, and, we treat ourselves as almost like a technology team within a broader company, because we're always iterating, always looking at what's next, always moving, the ball up the field. And, it's a lot of fun.
That's a lot to manage. And we've worked together for a little bit, and I know that's, across a portfolio, there's a lot going on, and it's very obviously performance driven as an organization, but with iconic brands. So that's kind of really interesting. How do you succeed in media in that sense?
Yeah, I think, when I think about all the different hats we've got to wear, I've got, again, technology capabilities, we've got media planning, we've got how to buy better, how to measure it more impactful. It takes on a lot of what's happening in this industry. And it used to be simple. It was a 3 on 1 off mantra of how you buy media on TV. And then all of a sudden I've got, 200 different channels I got to buy across. So as we think about success, it's really honing in and narrowing back to what are the business objectives we're trying to solve? How do we then use media to go solve those business objectives? And, as long as we're really being a huge counterpart to our brand partners and the ones who actually are driving the business and own their P&L, that is probably the most important part of being successful in my role. But really making sure that, we bring expertise and really ground how we're using media to solve those business challenges.
What's the best thing in your view of media? You've worked in a number of different places on different sides of the table, actually, as well, because you spent some time on the agency side. So what across your career have been the best things about media? And just tell us something that you're most proud of in your career so far. Yeah.
So, I think the ever-changing landscape is the best part. It also brings out the worst in some places, but it's never stale. It's always new things to always go after. As I just mentioned, like 3 on 1 off, as you think about media, what it used to be, that would be boring. So I think the way to always keep ahead and really see what's coming, there's always something new. How do you assess it and move quickly is really the best part of our industry. And on top of that, I think the people, a lot of people talk often about this. It's like, it's small. It is a small industry, but it's really big too. And, when you get to events and you get to go to conferences and listen to your peers talk and, get to, intertwine and network with them, like it truly is amazing the power of people as you think about what our industry has become. And I'm really, respectful of everyone across it. I think you never know where you're going to end up, but the relationships and what's happened in our industry across people is fantastic to be a part of. It feels like a small community and something you grew up with, which is really fun, but it allows you to keep with the ever changing landscape, knowing you've got friends in different places and, get the reel from them on certain things and what's happening. So I think those are two really powerful parts of it. As I look back on some of my career path, I think, one of the biggest challenges or biggest, I guess, opportunities I took was to jump and come over to the Hershey brand. And, not knowing much about the CPG industry, having always been in more of a technology role and then working in some parts of the technology role at an agency, I was not sure what to go expect. But, taking the leap, jumping in, I'm really actually most proud of that moment because it has changed both my lens, my thinking, but also the trajectory of a lot of parts of my career, which, I'm really proud of, like kind of taking that leap, taking that chance. And, it's been a tremendous opportunity and obviously I'm enjoying it quite a bit.
Let's think about the industry because you get to see, I always say to Vinny, it's like you're like one of the hardest working people in the room. I know you have a great team behind you, make you look amazing, but you're involved in a lot of conversations across the industry. And by the way, Vinny writes some great pieces on LinkedIn. Follow him on LinkedIn and other posts because you're provoking all of us to think differently. But the challenges. You really see them, right? So, what in your mind are the main one or two big challenges for them facing the media industry in the year ahead?
Yeah, I think, we all assess this from different angles. We try and call it many different things, whether it's, principle-based buying, cheap reach. The reality is, as a brand, it's almost nearly impossible to stand out anymore. There's so much noise. There's so many places of content consumption happening. There's different ways to consume that content across different demographics, different age ranges. And, for me, I think it's probably one of the biggest challenges of the industry is how do you change the reality that cheap reach is no more? There's areas you can go get scalable reach. It doesn't mean you need to use the word cheap. And we always tend to take every conversation into a pricing conversation rather than taking a conversation into an effective conversation. And I think that's where a lot of it's reframing the words we all use. I think we've, as an industry, have overcomplicated almost every part of it. And I think there's an acronym thrown out for every little thing. At the end of the day, regardless of cheap or not, every marketing principle is grounded in reach and frequency. And every brand is looking to grow their market share. You think about that. Okay, what does that mean? Oh, if you reach the right people at enough, balance of frequency, you're going to have a better, more effective outcome. If you reach too many people, you're in theory spraying and praying. And if we simplify, again, going back to what I had stated earlier, is stop solving media problems with media solutions, start solving business problems with media solutions. And I think that's a really important kind of shift in our mindset as an industry to, technology is table stakes. It enables everything. Go use it. But really focusing on what are the business problems you have to solve, and then what are the media or marketing solutions that can help you get part of the way there, if not all the way there.
Yeah. Very good. I mean, that in itself is leadership advice, which leads us really perfectly onto the next question, as you know. So, but I think I love that. The idea of we should be solving business problems, not media problems. We are very introverted and insular as an industry, aren't we? And we create complexity and then we create new technology to solve the problem that the last tech created. I really love this question because it's really nice to know any leadership advice that you've been given that you still think is really valuable, or maybe anything that you use with your teams now as leadership advice that you think is effective.
I've got two that I'm going to use in this instance because one is what I've been given often, but also something I need to keep reminding myself of and remembering, which is patience. This industry has moved so incredibly fast. everyone expects to move with it just as fast. And that's almost impossible. And having patience on, whether it's you didn't get your way or you want to do something new and nobody's letting you yet, or whatever it ends up being, be grounded in truth and facts, but be patient and bring people through that journey, I think is really, really important. Again, something I have to consistently remind myself of as well. But one thing I love to do and lead with my team is being curious. Ask questions. Don't stop asking questions. Even if you know the answer, be curious about going deeper and digging into something. And, I don't think a lot of people tend to use the phrase, which I don't love, is, I think I'm going to ask a stupid question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. And I just don't love that. It's like, it's okay to ask questions. Be curious about what you're talking about, whatever the topic is. It doesn't mean you are less intelligent than the next. You're being curious about a different area. And I think that is such a missed trait in our industry. And I love it. Just ask a lot of questions.
Very good. Love that. Good. Well, I'll ask you another question. Outside of media, for Vinny, what is a kind of moment of kind of passion or pastime? Where would we find you if you just want to forget about media and do something completely different?
Yeah. So I grew up playing hockey, started at 5 years old, played all the way through college. It was my life. It was me and my dad on the road all the time from literally 20 plus years. And it was incredible. And when I do think back some days, it's like, if I could get rid of all this, my ideal state would be like coaching a college hockey team. And that's it. And just like enjoying the game. I love the game. So I'm sort of living vicariously through my now 7-year-old who started playing, and I'm coaching him. But that's always been my passion. It's my favorite sport. It's what I love to watch, do, et cetera. So that's where I would be.
That's it. Don't invite Vinny to the Super Bowl.
No, I like that too. I love sports.
You love sport,
but in general, hockey is definitely my passion one.
Love it. Good. Okay. So, I mean, we've been on quite a good journey here through this conversation. In a short space of time, you've raised some of the challenges that we've got, and of which there are a few. We always try and, be positive, and I think you have the same mind. We've got to be patient. But what progress can we make? It's always nice to aim at something. So, in a year's time, what do you want us to look back on and think, we've actually resolved something, or we've achieved something important?
I think we have to start to remember what partnerships are again. They're two ways. They're not one-sided. And what I mean by that is you've got a lot of different areas that are developing in our industry, whether it's, retail media, principle-based buying, and all these new languages. At the end of the day, it's a partnership, whoever's on the other side of the table with you. It's a collaboration. It's an opportunity to win together, not an opportunity for one or the other side to win. And I think that's really important as the industry has become more bifurcated than ever before. As, content proliferation is everywhere. It's like, okay, how do we sit down and figure out how are we going to win together? What does that partnership look like? What do we need to unlock and learn this year? And then how do we keep optimizing that over the years to get better? It isn't a lot of times some of these conversations in any media partnership feels like if you give me this, I'm going to get that. And it's like, well, no, we've got to solve this. How do we do it together? And I think just reframing what partnerships really are in the industry, I think is needed at this stage because of how much is out there. And I hope that is a big focus area for all sides of the table to start thinking through of like, how do we go win together and not think of it in such a myopic viewpoint?
It's good. We're all on the same side, ultimately, right?
Correct.
Vinny Rinaldi, VP Media Marketing Technology at the Hershey Company. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. I appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Media Snack. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a positive review and remember to like and subscribe on YouTube.
And we love hearing your comments, so please don't be shy in the comments section below.
That's it for now. See you next time on Media Snack.